Good evening, everyone. This is our October curriculum, co-curricular athletics and pupil personnel meetings. I have the entire administrative staff with me, along with Mr. Zeigler and Ms. Alvarez. I believe Mr. Payne is running a little late, but we'll get started so that we don't fall short of time like always. The first item on the agenda today is an update by the athletics department along with Dr. Sanaski. So Mr. Brandica, you and Dr. Sanaski can take it away. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of things regarding mental health and athletics. I wanted to throw just one stat at everyone. About 1 in every 5 high school athletes have experienced a diagnosable mental health disorder, such as depression, anxiety, eating disorders, or substance misuse. So there's a lot of many contributing factors to this, and one way to help out is to invest in specific programs that help out really with mental health literacy. So we're going to talk about a couple of things that we're already doing more in-house with Dr. Soninsky, and then I'll talk specifically about a program that I would like the district to invest in.
Okay, so last spring, our student assistance counselor, Ms. Banowski, ran a program through the counseling office, and it wasn't the most well attended. So we were talking about different things that we could do to get more parents and students to hear a lot of these, programs and understand the challenges or understand the, the things that could go wrong with substances and mental health and different things. So in working with Mr. Barantica, we were able to get a program together with one of the SACs, the student assistant counselor from Old Bridge, and she made put together a program, and we shared that with all the students in the fall. They came at the end of the summer, went into the Performing Arts Center, and went through this presentation. It was about 40 minutes long, but it was very well received. And some of the things that they talked about, the actual program was called Playing It Clean, and it talked about sports injuries and substance prevention. Many times students get injured and then they start to take medications to try to help with that. And sometimes it goes to the wrong direction. We talked about warning athletes of the dangers of substance use and to ensure that they have a safe and healthy season. And this is something that's going to happen again for the winter athletes, going to happen again for the spring athletes. Discussed peer pressure, team culture, and then also shared all the different counseling options that we have at the high school. And the student assistance counselor, Ms. Banowski's name, we shared that with the students. We're also going to be bringing this to the Mr. Enrica as a parent program for each season also. So at that parent program, we're now going to be sharing not the same program from the that we have with the students, but something similar, a shorter presentation to again give the parents the information and to understand. So it's a captive audience, obviously, with the athletics, and and we have many students that are involved with athletics, so it's just a good place to get this information out there.
So outside of this, I did think it was important for us to maybe invest to have a resource for the student athletes throughout the entire season, not just something that happens just once. As you guys may know, sometimes the athletes are ready to have a conversation about what they're experiencing, but sometimes they're not. So I do think it's important for us to meet them where they're at. So there's a program called, it's an app-based program called Athlete Talk, which is basically focuses on things like nutrition, anxiety, sleep, burnout, trauma, substance use, depression, relationships, and a host of other different things. The app is pretty neat. I've been using like a beta app so far to kind of test it out. And essentially what it does is it gives the athletes an opportunity to engage in things like journaling, listening to different audio resources that they have, as well as take assessments in specific areas. And then we're able to use a dashboard that would be available to the district to kind of see how engaged the student athletes are, what are some of the things that they're finding most interest in, throughout the app. We can also use it again. Different schools can do different types of things, but through the dashboard, we can also find a way to incentivize it to make sure that we kind of get rid of the stigma of, that mental health may not be important, or things of that nature. I think the plan would be to use, it's only $500, and right now we would be able to use title funds to fund that. Moving forward, if it's something that we feel like would be important and beneficial to our student athletes, we can perhaps continue using title funds to fund it. And again, I would like to test it out in the winter and kind of see how much engagement we get. through talking with the developers, they say that apps like this usually get anywhere from 2 to 5% engagement, but they found with their app that they get anywhere from 13 to 15%. So I would like to kind of just test it out and kind of see if it's a good resource that we can offer to our student athletes. Some of them may use it, some of them may not, but I think if we can reach to some students who may be in a situation where they need some help, this would be something that would be beneficial.
And our student, Ms. Banowski and Mr. Meredith and I looked through the app, and so she reviewed it to make sure that it was probably, good information for the correct population, because I think some, different ages use it, right, so.
I have a question. So does it, how does it work? Like the students upload if they have a concern, if they're struggling with something and they get connected with someone, or?
So everything is self-paced. So the way that it works is basically we would have a certain amount of subscriptions, and the subscriptions would give the individual a username and a password. So they're able to log in with that subscription into the account, and basically they self-guide themselves through things that they may be interested in. So we may have a student athlete, let's just say, who wants to deal with or is dealing with something, and they want to, read a little bit more about this stress or something like that, right? They can go in, they can journal on some of the questions that ask them in regards to that. It'll give them resources, things to kind of do if they're feeling like that or things of that nature. And then from there, they can also take assessments, and we would have access to it on the dashboard on the other end to make sure that we can see, what are some of the things that the students are looking at. Another thing that I thought would maybe interesting is with our student assistance counselors, if they perhaps see a student athlete, maybe we don't know, from the athletic department, we don't know they're seeing a student athlete, and they know they're experiencing certain things, maybe they can say, hey, I've tried some of the resources that we have in-house already for you to maybe, help to kind of deal with some of those things. But ideally, it's a username and password that they would get, that would allow them to access the system.
And are there flags, like if someone types something like suicidal ideation, there are flags?
Correct, there would be flags.
In place.
Yep, there would be flags, and we would be able to see everything from the dashboard end.
So I have a few questions. First of all, I think this is definitely a need that needs, that needs attention. I'm assuming that we are already doing something within our school district, but it's probably not it's not tailored specifically for athletes, right? Is that what the purpose of this pilot is, that you make a program that's specifically for athletes?
We obviously have a counseling office, and we have a student assistance counselor, and some of that unfortunately is reactive. This is something that, again, is more proactive, and trying to meet the student athletes in this case, where they're comfortable, which is on the phone, like in an app. There's a chance maybe we could push it even further, but not just athletes. Right now, like I said, it started kind of, the genesis of these ideas started with that student assistance presentation last year. And, we had some parents there, but we thought that we should have more, and it wasn't getting out enough. So they were thinking about other ways to get that information out there. Steve's been great with letting us work with the athletes, and athletes are students, obviously too. So, and then we can, build upon this as we keep moving to.
So initially, this app is just for the students, right? Is there going to be some sort of parent education on it when you launch this for the winter athletes? Would this be part of your winter presentation, winter sport presentation?
So the winter sports presentation happens to be the same day that we have the board meeting. But yes, I think ideally, I would love to share with the parents, that this is something that we're looking into and we would like to have, so that they're aware that their students, and obviously their sons and daughters, also have access to an app like this, from a resource standpoint.
So all winter athletes will have the opportunity to download this app?
Yes.
And choice is theirs whether they want to use it.
Correct. You can't force a student athlete necessarily to maybe look at something, or maybe they may not be ready to discuss or to look at something, but we can talk to the coaches about promoting it, and things like that.
So I want to go back to the statistic you shared. The adoption rate is usually 2 to 5%.
I'm sorry?
2 to 5%, you said, and then for this app is.
It's about around 13 to 15% according to the developers.
13 to 15% according to the developers.
Yeah. And again, the function, from a functionality standpoint, it looks very similar to, like an Instagram or like a Facebook. So it's very, from the standpoint of what it looks like the apps that the students are already using. So I think it's they're used to using those types of things. So I think it helps for it to be more interactive in that case, because they're kind of used to those type of apps.
Meeting them in an environment that they're comfortable with,
Correct.
used to. And with athletes, it's the whole stigma of always acting and looking tough. makes them hide these kind of things, then that's the substance abuse. It becomes, they go from one extreme to the other and we reactive usually. So I agree that the need is big. And while it's grant funded, there's no better time to be prior than today. Yes, sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
So let's assume that, you find a student that needs intervention. So where do we go from there? What happens next in that, unless I missed it?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, if, like, there is a back end to this, so we would be able to see, who's doing what on these platforms, right, on this app. If there was a student that, was going to certain places and that was maybe problematic, or they, they started using this app and they started to realize that they have challenges. Every high school student has their own school counselor, and then we have a student assistance counselor who deals with students with any, type of substance abuses, or in the more challenging cases of severe mental health. Sometimes we can deal with it just here in-house with brief counseling and work with the student, work with the parents, work with the teachers. Oftentimes we have to refer out for, mental health counseling also. But we have plenty of, services here that can support students. This is just another way because, like, as I was saying, that oftentimes students don't want to share these things. And it's a matter of, we don't want to just be reactive. We want to be proactive. The counselors meet with students all the time. They get referrals from teachers. They get referrals from maybe their friends will then say, like, look, that this, like, my friends say these things online. And then they, will then talk with them that way. So, there's a lot of different ways that we find out, but then there are the supports here, to help them.
So go ahead.
This would be extremely tricky in terms of how much information does a student want to put out there? So, I mean, I've heard what you just said, and I agree with you 100%. So in that particular situation, what do you do? I mean, sometimes a student doesn't want it out there. And so at that point, how do you deal with it? How do you go to the student and try and get the student to, because you've already screened them, that there's an issue there or a potential problem.
I would say, at that point, it's also another tool that we have to perhaps be able to identify a student that may need help. I mean, if it wasn't for the app, let's just say in this case, we may not have known that this student athlete was experiencing something. So using the app to maybe, again, identify a student who needs it can then allow us to then, okay, hey, figure out how can we reach out to the student to make sure that we give them the supports that they may potentially need, that we would have known, perhaps we didn't have something like this. But then sometimes, I've dealt with athletes as a student, as an athletic trainer before. You have athletes who get hurt, who deal with things and never say anything, start taking perhaps pills for the pain and, and then kind of, it's a slippery slope from there. Sometimes they don't want to talk to you. Sometimes you got to find a way to, to reach them, or sometimes it's, maybe it was, again, in this case, it could be an app that they're selecting things, taking an assessment, and now there's a red flag. And now on the back end from the dashboard, we can say, hey, let's put ourselves together and figure out what we can do in order to support the student athlete. At that time, we have some information to perhaps be able to, go out to them and reach out to them and try to see what we can do to help them.
If I could echo Charlie's concern, so I see a lot of value in this, but the whole fact that they're trying to stay tough and be tough is because they don't want to lose any playing time, right? And for every athlete, coach shouldn't know what they're struggling with. Injuries also like postpone, and then they end up at the trainer, and then they keep that facade of, I'm fine, I'm coming back, right? So while I think this is definitely a great tool to be proactive, and the counseling department is, my question would be, coaches are not going to be involved in this, or are they? Or when are they going to be involved in this?
When are they going to be?
Yeah, are we going to keep the sanctity of this, when the flags are observed? Is it just the counseling department that deals with it, or does the athlete feel like more people are gonna find out?
I think it's a case by case basis. Sometimes you have some things that are going on where, again, the student athlete is dealing with the counselors and maybe they're the only ones who know. I mean, there's sometimes things that I don't even know as the athletic director, out of privacy for the student athlete and what they're experiencing. And perhaps there may be some things that spread out into things that maybe the coaches do need to know. But I think those things would be handled on a case by case basis. Perhaps under the direction of their counselors and what they feel the student athlete, may need at that time, or what maybe they can, confide in with them about, or, how much information they want to get out. But again, I think the important piece here is just to be able to identify a potential
Be
issue
proactive about
and
it.
be able to kind of act on that.
And to go back with Charlie, like there is confidentiality, the student is talking with a counselor, there's confidentiality, so they won't be sharing it with a coach or a parent necessarily even. But if there's any, chance for them to harm themselves or anybody else, then confidentiality is broken. And that's something that all the counselors, I know, child study team does the same thing.
Right.
They let the students know that, ahead of time, but
And the app is
oftentimes,
also,
they do want to talk. They don't necessarily want to talk in a group like this or with their teammates. But once there's that concern, then, many of them do want to talk. And if they have a relationship with their counselor or they have a relationship with a teacher or someone, then there is that bridge.
I think I agree with Gisela that it's a good program. I think it's something we probably need, but at the same time, there are pitfalls.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you recognize those pitfalls, because I think, there's always issues. No matter what program you put on, you gotta look for what
The
are
risk,
some of the,
right, there are risks.
how do you deal with them? And so, and I think you have a pretty good handle on them, so thank you so much.
So there's great value. My last question to you is, once this winter athletes have, piloted with this, does the title fund cover for the next season, or what is our plan for future if we see success in this?
yeah, so I would say, again, the subscription that we would pay right now, I believe covers us for the year. So we could actually use it in the winter and the spring as well.
Excellent.
I can always double check that with them, but again, I would want to reevaluate regardless at the end of the winter, kind of see how, how successful it was before we roll it out with any other teams. And if I'm not mistaken, we would just resubmit next year with title fund for next year if it's something we would like to keep.
So with title funds, we annually get our allotments, and then we come together and identify programs or needs and areas, and that's how we kind of distribute and allocate the title fund that we're speaking about.
And if we like the idea, but maybe this app isn't the one that works best for us, I'd be more than glad to go out and look for something else that helps. So, yeah, we don't have to stick with this necessarily.
Sorry, I lied. One more question. Any other school districts around us that have experimented with this?
Not that I know specifically, but I know there are a lot of different schools do different types of things. Like I know, Red Bank Regional, I believe it is, they have, people come in all the time to do specific types of talks. So again, I know this is kind of new, the app-based, and the developer said it themselves, a lot of colleges use it, but it's kind of starting to drip down into the high school setting.
So we're early adopters. Good luck.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Not regarding this, but can I ask Mr. Barandiga a question?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. If you don't mind, Mr. Barandiga, I'm glad I caught you here. I was at Middlesex County School Board's meeting last week, and two attorneys were there, and they were talking about the spectator conduct policy. And I don't know, do you know about it? I know I spoke to Ms. Alvarez. Do they have to sign a form? Okay, so that's kept on all the, because the one lawyer said, if NJSIAA comes to one of your events and looks, and that coach doesn't have the form that's supposed to be signed, but then you could actually forfeit the game. So I just wanted to make sure we're able to we have our forms.
So the spectator code of conduct policy, which started at the beginning of this year, we approved it last year.
Okay.
We actually posted it out at the beginning of the year through Genesis so that all of our parents sign it,
Great.
not just the high school parents, just to make sure we're covered up.
That I wanted to make sure, because when they said NJSIAA
Yeah.
can come and actually stop the meet or the game,
Yeah.
if you didn't have the correct forms, I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that we were
No.
doing it.
We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and good
Just going
luck.
to say that I'm going to go to the college fair now. We have 70 colleges and
Good luck with that
military
as well.
here. So,
Wow, that's
and
nice.
there's also a financial aid presentation. So
Oh,
Wonderful.
that's great.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with that. Thank you. So since we have just 3 curriculum documents, I'm going to reverse the order today and maybe go to summer programming next. Mr. Maralda, did I surprise you?
No.
Always prepared.
So, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This evening, we had decided to report out our summer recap will be in 2 parts. The first part will be talking about our high school offerings this summer, and then maybe next month or a little later on, depending on the agendas. So, we'll recap our enrichment component, which services pre-K through E3 learners. But the high school offering over the summer this year, both programs were brand new. to our district. First being our NTHS Summer Advancement Program, which was the first advancement program of its kind, modeled in response to the participation that we had observed historically regarding our students pursuing out-of-district opportunities to advance in mathematics. And our math sequence, and Ms. Gasco is here to correct me when I misspeak, is probably our most codified structure as far as sequencing and ensuring access is appropriate. And it all begins with the accelerated math program at the elementary level. And what we were finding was that if students were able to successfully progress through the program in accordance with our very explicitly detailed expectations, they may find themselves in a position to go and obtain a math course over the summer to ensure that they could access some of the most rigorous courses offered at the high school level. Once we observed that many of these students were going out of district, and in many cases being instructed by Monroe teachers at those out-of-district sites, we realized that it was appropriate, after some careful consideration of examining our programs of studies, that we could offer this opportunity here at the high school. And so Ms. Gaskell and I got to work on it right around January, February of last year, and we were able to roll it out with a high degree of success. Our geometry program and our honors geometry programs, which were offered over the summer, were both fully populated. Anybody that met our criteria and wanted access got in. We were priced lower than every single one of our competitors in the regional area. So not only did we offer a localized and what we believe to be a superior product, it was also more affordable. And we're going to avoid speaking specifics about data because we're very careful about recording data, because in some instances when the data is very skewed one way, you can identify individuals on the latter part of that data set. And if you'd like, I can explain what I mean by that offline. But the generalized sentiment from Ms. Gasco, myself, and the team here at the high school was that the program was an overwhelming success. Our teachers, our two teachers, did a fantastic job, and we spoke about this at the committee. This was 5 hours of traditional direct instruction, which both of those teachers had never done before. I remember reteaching the 84-minute block here every other day. And the students, the one thing we were concerned about, right, was the attendance and getting students here on site every day on time. And the students met the challenge. And we were very clear with them that attendance and the time served in the seat was very important, as was the performance. And our students did very well, and we couldn't be more pleased. And our timeline worked out nicely to where we were able to report the data out to our guidance department to get those kids scheduled appropriately, because the students that successfully earned the credit were then able to advance into Algebra 2. And our counselors had plenty of headway to make sure that they were scheduled there appropriately. I have to give credit to Ms. Gasco, not to put her on the spot, but I would often joke about how strict she was with her, and I'm a pushover admittedly when it comes to that stuff. But Ms. Gasco holds a hard line with admissions, and I think the proof is in data. We historically do very, very well in our math assessments, and charting this unknown territory with teachers that did not have a lot of experience doing this type of instruction. They answered the bell and delivered it. And even in some instances, they covered for each other, and the students were great. They, we had one child, I don't want to blow up the spot, but we didn't think he was going to make it because he had a soccer injury, and he showed up the next day because that's how seriously they took the program. And we think we've got some good feedback that we can look at to see what we want to do next, as far as next summer. We have not made any definitive decisions on what next summer's program offerings would look like, but we can offer the community the knowledge that when we decide what programs will be offered, we will make those announcements with plenty of time so they can make their scheduling decisions next year accordingly. So what I mean by that is if we are going to, let's say, offer geometry again, the public would have plenty of knowledge, and so they can have that discussion with their guidance counselors and evaluate the math performance criteria just to get that make a decision for them, because we know that that's an important aspect of being able to make these decisions over the summer. And Dr. Sinansky and his team offered some feedback as well. But we're pretty pleased. I don't know, Ms. Gasco, if you want to add anything to that or.
We work very closely together, so much that Ms. Monroe was probably tired of hearing from me. But,
You seem
we-
just strict side.
yes, no, it was,
I knew what battles to fight.
we wanted to make sure that there was transparency and all of the expectations and what was gonna happen, including the attendance policy on top of it, because the attendance, being there in person is really what made it work. And so we worked together, we worked with Dr. Higgins, and we were trying to mirror the attendance as to what would be a late, what would be an absence, what was acceptable, what was not. And the students, we did not have a student drop out because of it. So we also, the teachers were extremely good in communicating with us as well as with the parents if they started to see a student that was late a couple times or they started seeing absence. So there was no surprises by anybody, and it was all done in a very nurturing way. Just remember you have to be here. It really truly allowed for a great deal of success. Through the winter, because we knew it was going to be very successful, there was no room to drop or move to a different level. So what was happening is when we went through and if they signed up for an honors, and I felt that it might be overwhelming to them, just like in the outside programs, they were allowed to take the course if they want to. We didn't say you couldn't take it, but I did have a few conversations with parents and say, you might want to rethink this. I still have openings in both sections. Once it gets closed out, it's not going to be something you do. And so the success rate, while, like I said, because it was so extremely successful, we don't want to give you exact numbers because it would mirror, not everybody 100% made it through, but far more successful than anything I've had in the past. So I've always felt it's been successful in the past as well. I would encourage parents that are looking for next year, not to be looking now because I've already gotten a few emails. We are not ready to sign up. It's only the beginning of October, but it will come out and they will be notified that they do seriously think of the level and make sure that they look at the program of studies and they see what's appropriate and they can speak to me, they can speak to their guidance counselor. Because the ones that had the greatest amount of success were the ones that were in the levels that were appropriate to them. When I talk to other schools, geometry is by far the most popular one to take over the summer, and I think it's a good time. Generally, it typically seems to be after 9th grade when they're taking it. They're not involved in necessarily doing outside volunteer work and things like that. They're trying to build for their college applications. It's a good time to do it. The Algebra 2 is a much less demand for that. And so I don't know if that's something that we would offer because there's not too many students that ask for that. They can still go outside and take that going through. But that's a much harder course to do because you need that to go on to the higher level classes going through. But the geometry itself was a huge hit, a huge success. And I think the students enjoyed being there.
I just want to outline a few facts about this, just for people who are listening. We offered honors geometry and regular geometry for students that had finished freshman year and wanted to just move up in level in mathematics by. And I'm very intrigued by both of you insisting on not sharing the numbers. It just kind of puts the number really up there in my head.
It was, I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled.
So we had 2 teachers teaching and we were able to handle 2 subjects, and what we accomplished was 180 days of instruction in 60 days. Is that right?
And it was very rigorous. So they had the pacing set down ahead of time. They mirrored a lot of what gets done, not as necessarily as much practice as you would get in 180 days. And in our high school, it's over 90 days because it's the every other day schedule.
Right.
But it's very compact, and to learn and retain, and then to be able to transfer that to other questions, because it's not, especially the honor level, it's not a mirror of exactly what you did. It's the concepts. Is not an easy feat.
And their assessment schedule was relentless.
It was.
with the-
Which also is why the attendance was so important, because you can't get behind. Once you get behind, it spirals. And when students have not done well, and we did not experience this in our program because we really were very, very tight about the attendance and explaining why. Sometimes when the attendance is not there with others, the grades will be very, very low. And then what's the point? You don't want to waste your money going through. But I was very, very.
And looking ahead, and I'll open up to other people's questions. Looking ahead, I want to understand, and I know I'm not taking a commitment for what's coming, but are we looking to go into higher levels and we would need more staffing? Is that what the plan is? It might not happen next year, it may happen 2 years later.
So I don't want to talk to Mr. Robert in terms of for the math. I can say We are not yet at the point of having the conversations of exactly what would be offered for next year, but our hope is that we would continue and expand. How we expand is something that we have to talk about as a whole team, because it's not really just about math, it's really about the whole school as a whole, to see where would be a best fit.
So expansion is two ways in my head. One is you increasing your class size, the other is you're offering more subjects. From what I understood, anybody that met the criteria was able to take, and wanted to take it, was able to take it this year.
So we did it on a first come, first served basis. And it filled it very quickly, which was nice for me because then I kind of knew who was in it. And then if students, if parents were allowed to drop out, if plans changed or they had vacation plans. So as I monitored that very, very closely going through. The nice thing about the way the application went, because it was time stamped, I literally, in the beginning, I was looking at it every single day, but if I missed it a day or I got students that decided to apply on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I started looking at it Sunday afternoon. It was very much time stamped, so you know exactly who put in at what time going through. It just worked out beautifully for us that we did not have to say no to anybody, but we did not go over the capacity of what we said we had
I
wanted.
think the only instance was there was a child that tried to get in like the day before the class started and we just couldn't.
It was filled at that point, right. And so, but the far majority, we put this out mid-January.
We started talking about it right around January and I think we opened up registration like right around.
And we also sent a notice out to all parents that this was not something that was a surprise. A notice went out through Blackboard that it was open for anybody that was, of that level too.
What did we charge for, the students? Was it different for either of the subjects or was
No,
it?
it's the same, I want to say 1750.
It was $17.50. So unlike some of the other outside programs, some of the outside programs have the honors being more time and more money. But that's from my understanding. Some of the ones that I'm thinking of in particular, a lot of it was more, I think, just time to kind of work on problems and more independent time. We kept it the same. So it was the same price. There was no more contact time, but the idea is that if you felt that you were ready for the honors, you should be able to do it in that time and not need more time. And it was extremely successful. So, like I said, I was happy ear to ear.
Do you want to explain why we don't get the numbers? Because I feel like I didn't do it the right way.
I will. So in terms of vision about what this looks like going forward,
Yeah.
there's a couple things to consider. We recognize that, so it's 120 hours for credit advancement. The time commitment involved over the summer is a significant chunk. So we've kind of recognized that the pool of students that are potentially interested in making that commitment is a relatively fixed, pool. So in our consideration of what this looks like in terms of expanding, we may, if we add something, we may pull from, say, the geometry pool that would have existed, right? So it's a careful consideration about what and where and how we kind of expand a little bit. So that's one of the big factors we're going to look into is, we're going to run 4 classes, but have the same enrollment as if we had the 2, the geometry and the honor geometry. And that's fine, but we just want to have that as part of our radar, right? Because many of the courses are grade level specific or fall in sequence in certain grade levels. But there are also courses that are maybe elective based or something like that, that could hit a broader range of students that again, may open up something other than between freshman and sophomore year. But again, there are a lot of things and it's a massive time commitment. So we're going to be thoughtful in the way we look at it. We're going to overlay it on the course of studies, work with the high school to see, maybe there are course sequences in place at the high school that it's a challenge to get certain courses in the natural course sequence that the students have. And this would be an opportunity for them to hop out, take this course that they wouldn't necessarily traditionally be able to have access to. So there's a lot involved in, but we can overwhelmingly commit to, or not commit to, but say that the geometry and honor geometry courses were the right courses to start this with, because we knew there was a demand. We knew based on historical interest that there was an interest, and a lot of people willing to make that commitment over the summer to our external schools that were already doing this. In terms of numbers, when the numbers are, in this case, so positive, if we were to share it, there's probably a student or 2 that would be able to identify themselves as
I did.
being these people, right? So That's the only, and we do the same thing with all, and it's called an end, certain number or data set pool that we would share. So it's overwhelmingly successful, extremely.
That's good enough to know.
Yeah.
You may recall, like, when we report AP data, if there's an exam that has less than 5 participants, we generally don't report that because these meetings, as we know, are so very public.
Yeah.
It would be very easy to identify outcomes to
That
an
makes sense.
individual. So that's kind of what, we're not being facetious in it we're just trying to protect student.
Yeah.
And Dr. Lin, I totally understand everything that you just said, and I also agree with it. And you know how passionate I've been about bringing it into Monroe. It's a revenue source, so I'm thrilled that we had this great, result this summer. And my only ask and hope would be that it only continues to expand at whatever level you guys, we've touched, tasted blood, like they say.
We sure have. And so just to follow up on what Dr. Lehman he explained perfectly. So where we're at now is, and Dr. Finansky just left. So Dr. Finansky will pull now course requests for us. And we can identify student requests that maybe they were not fulfilled, like in the electives, the arts, perhaps some of these ancillary, I think about this, the cybersecurity course, which doesn't fit currently into any track, and it doesn't fit into any academies. But, that may be something that someone wants to round off. I'm just using this as an example, but something they wanted to round off their transcript. So we look at that. We look at the arts that may not necessarily be accessible. Someone may want an art class over the summer. We don't know yet. So we're going to be looking at that kind of data. But then we also look in the core classes to see what we can do to support what they're doing. You brought up revenue, and it's a terrific segue, unless anyone has any more questions about this.
Any
Because-
questions on the math enrichment?
Great. So we mentioned we charged $17.50 per student, and we did pretty well as far as meeting our mark. So where does that money go? Well, obviously, we have to pay for our teachers, and fortunately, this math class did not carry a significant overhead because it's our curriculum, our materials, our staff. We just have to pay them their contractually guaranteed wages. So with this revenue, we knew that the district simultaneously had another pressing need, which was a way to address our summer remediation efforts. And right around this time last year, Dr. Roselle had set me up with a rep at the school board's conference in Atlantic City that offered a service that specialized in meeting unique district needs, particularly in large, diverse, dynamic districts like this that had a lot of nuanced needs. And through Dr. Roselle's work with the ESL, her ELL program and other various spin-offs from that, we thought that there might be a solution to our summer school problem, because what we were seeing is that the summer school that we offered here, which we believe to be superior for the same reasons we wanted our advancement program here, the students weren't coming here. They were going elsewhere because there was an online option that was much more convenient, that met their needs, and quite frankly, was a lot easier. And it was the general consensus of our team that it was not necessarily the most effective way to reclaim learning that may have been, come up short in the last hour of the school year. So we did a little research, and spinning off the success that we had observed from Dr. Roselle's inquiry, we thought it might be a fit for what we called our Virtual Plus Summer School. So similar to our advancement program, overwhelmingly success passing rates, and if there was no success, it was just simply because we never got off the ground with some of those individuals. As far as our objectives, which was to reclaim those summer learners back into the district, in 2024, we had 7 students do our summer school. This past year, with the new program and the new model, we had 70 students. So that was a significant increase. 76, so an increase of 68 students from 2004. Strike that was an increase of, sorry, I must have had 8. But so anyway, the difference is that yes, it was online, but every week we offered an option for the students to come in and meet with their teachers. We called it the embedded support. Few students took us up on that, but the ones that came in definitely benefited, and those are the ones that we really helped. We really kind of hit a groove about halfway through the summer. Program function, and we got some terrific feedback on how we think we can improve it. The difference between our Virtual Plus program and the other online summer school programs that take place throughout the state is that our district controls the content, and we control the pacing, and we can offer the students a support that otherwise doesn't exist with third-party services. On top of that, we had the technical support of the Ingenuity service, which I'll be completely honest, and I don't want to ruin any negotiation position. They were fantastic in their customer service and their responsiveness and even their affordability with what they offered us and their flexibility along the way. On top of that, he's right back there. Alan sat with us pretty much the entire beginning of the summer to make sure that our tech was working along with all other staff. We had about, I want to say 13 high school teachers that were assigned about an average about 20 students each, sometimes outside their content area, sometimes within. But it didn't matter because the teachers that we hired were there to provide support and to help the students connect with the content and to get them, because the content and the assessments and all of the instructional materials were already in place, already state aligned. In some instances, in conversations with the teachers, our teachers would find out that the curriculum offered by the service wasn't necessarily in line with what we were doing here. So I'll give one example where our physics teacher went in there and made a quick change to the curriculum within the Ingenuity system to make sure it was even closer to what we were doing here in Monroe. And that was the kind of personalization that we were looking for to ensure that these children that were in the science classes this year, when they come back in September, didn't miss it. We had 17 different courses, which was up 11 from 2024. That's where I got the 6 number. We only offered 6 courses in 2024. This year we offer 17.
I'm sorry, what was that number?
17.
17 courses.
Yes, sir. And that's across all content areas, world language, all the math and the sciences and everything like that. So we used the revenue from the advancement program to fund this pilot. And it came at no increased expense to the district, and that includes all software installation, staff training, and hiring of personnel. So it was a complete, not only did we, we claimed victory on the high school advancement program, we will claim victory on the summer school, and we will claim victory in the business office because we didn't ask them for a cent. And we think we have a framework that we can use to improve. Dr. Sinansky and his counselors already gave us pages of feedback for how we can improve from an operational standpoint to better help them, to make sure that they can help the learners better. We hope to get information out about this virtual plus summer school to the public sooner, so they know that this is the best option for them in summer. We're also going to be exploring the 120-hour option, which is something that we've never done before for next summer. So that would be for students that need the full reclamation of the course. Dr. Stevens now and Dr. Higgs now will talk about that in the coming weeks. Any change that we will make for the summer will be announced publicly well in front of the program of studies discussion at the high school. So what we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks, as we prepare for budgeting and program of studies updates, we'll talk with our departments about anything that we think we can offer over the summer that there's a need for. And then we'll talk as a team, and Dr. Lehman and I discussed today that at one of our upcoming K-12 supervisor meetings, we will even discuss how we would like to approach examining the Ingenuity units for some school to see if there's further changes we'd like to make to marry it up to our curriculum also. This is going a little bit longer than I originally intended. I did want to give Dr. Roselle an opportunity because while we were doing this, really in partnership with them, but along separately, Dr. Roselle was running a pilot with the DLL through the system. I don't know if you want to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, sure. Just very briefly, I leverage Title III funds, which are, it's federal funding for our multilingual learners, and leverage that to provide credit recovery. And I actually did run a 120-hour, a full credit completion course for a student as well. Again, I'm not going to talk numbers because those numbers are lower, but we had an incredible success rate. The only students who were not successful in the courses were the students who had never logged on. I was able to have one of our Spanish-speaking staff members on site every single day for a student. For students, they could come in person, or she was setting up Teams meetings or Google Meet meetings to meet virtually with students who didn't have the transportation to be able to get here. On a weekly basis, that staff member was also communicating out with families in their first language, so that communication was ongoing with parents or guardians as well. And we had, like I said, incredible success with that as well. And I hope to, well, ideally, I hope to not need that program. Right? But we can build off of that success. That worked out really well, and was a fantastic use of that federal funding as well.
Congratulations. This is, I remember how 11th hour this was, that we were literally, all was finalized for summer, and then you came in and you said we could use this, and you said we were gonna go virtual. We went up from 7 to 76 students, and we met them, you know, and the fact that it was paid for through the other program. My only question is, in the past, we have charged for remediation. What's our future plan? This year, this is how it worked out, which is great. It was a pilot,
We did charge a small fee.
but are we going to change that?
So the goal is to charge as little as possible. And that has always been, when it comes to these fee-based programs, the district is not, these programs are not designed to derive a profit.
Cover cost is what I.
Cover cost. So for example, sadly, this year, for our after-school club code, which is just began today, actually, we had to regrettably increase our price by $15. That was the first time we raised the price. And that was something that we had put off, and it just happens to be, we need to re-up on supplies this year. You know, teacher contract doesn't change, but just the cost of raw supplies. As we head into budget philosophy, there are a couple of things that we need to consider. If these programs are going to be embedded into our district indefinitely, it probably would not be a responsible or prudent decision to have these programs rely solely on revenue generated through fee-based programs. And the reason for that is, what if there's a recession, or if there's some sort of thing where that revenue shortfalls?
Yep.
So what we have to decide as a district is to whether or not we can or want to, or it's even feasible to embed these types of programs into our annual budget indefinitely. And we could figure out ways to do that and supplement it with revenues. As for how we go about charging the price, if there's an ability to reduce the price and cover our costs, we will do that. We've done that over the summer for some of our robotics programs. We slid the price back on certain years. On certain years, we've actually slid it back on music a couple times. We slid it back on summer school this year from the previous year. I can't commit to that right now. We don't, we have to enter into negotiations for continuity again. And, obviously we have to take a look at what happens to teacher negotiations down the road as well. But the idea would always be to offer our consumer, or in this case, our students, the lowest possible price, without railroading our efforts for never ending.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize, what I was saying was that when we were doing the traditional approach, our cost was pretty high for that.
And we were still incurring a loss at that price.
Even at that, and we weren't interesting the students enough. We
No, it was last-
see the success rate. The cost is exponentially less in this, and all we need to do is ensure we recover cost, which is the cost of the program and our teachers. So while I don't disagree with you in the philosophy for embedding it in the budget, but we don't want to lose the program just because we have to look for areas to cut down our budget. So if we can.
No. And what I meant by that is I would just hate to say, hey, we're running this summer school program, and then go to Miss Allen and say, hey, I got a $30,000 shortfall here to pay my staff.
Yeah.
What do you got for me? So that's something we don't ever want to be in a situation like that. So as we grow, I want to be mindful of the institutional sustainability of such growth.
Any questions for Mr. Monroe?
No, I just think that you guys have really put together one dynamite program, I must tell you. I've ran programs, and I must tell you, this summer, and the programs you were putting together and running are unbelievable.
Thank you.
And it's great to see these kinds of students. And I think you have a very clear vision in terms of where you want to go. And I think you also have a vision in terms of the reality of possibilities where there could be some dollars that may not be available. And I think you're considering that too. And I think that's very smart.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's where Dr. Lehman, he often grounds us with those, we have to be mindful of that, because it'd be very easy to say, oh, let's do if we rolled out a calc class over the summer, it would sell out in a second, right? But what that does, there are ripple effects to that could really undermine our ability to operate as an organization, servicing students with what they need. And it's not always just about putting a shiny product out there and seeing who comes, because they will come, you know that. We
Oh,
we
yeah.
could put anything out there and say it's gonna get you to come. But and also it's important for us, if we're gonna grow and sustain, that the customer has to have a high degree of satisfaction.
Nice job. Thank you.
Great job.
And congratulations to all those involved, all the teachers, the 17 staff members, plus the 2 for the enrichment for the successful summer program. Does that conclude your update, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, and we'll talk about elementary and middle school at a later.
At the next meeting. Dr. Lehman, should we move into the MTSS
Sure.
review?
Yep.
You and Ms. Ruella? Right.
Yep, well, it's,
Oh, sorry.
it's actually gonna be Dr. Roselle, Mrs. McLeod, and I'll kick it off a little bit. So, this time of year, we wanted to kind of cycle back to something that's on our strategic plan that we've been growing and building for a couple of years, and kind of cycle back, ground ourselves in some of the progress we've made, some of the updates we have, and Dr. Roselle, if you want to kick it off, you guys have a few notes and things that you can follow along.
All right, so our MTSS program, multi-tiered systems of support, services all students. We have made improvements to this process over the past several years. That included professional learning for our school administrators, for our interventionists, for us as a curriculum and instruction team as well. And a lot of the work that we have done has sought to really build a culture of data, to improve our data literacy, our student data literacy, to make data and evidence-based decisions. And to ensure compliance with federal regulations, compliance with our New Jersey tiered systems of support and IRS mandates as well. Our MTSS teams exist in all 8 of our schools. They consist of building level administrators, school counselors, in some cases school nurses, a member of the child study team, interventionists, and often in consultation with the general education classroom teachers. So these are teams that meet at least 3 times a year. They meet after students are assessed using MAP, which is our universal screener. So we screen all of our students, not only in literacy, but also in math 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And we have a very succinct data protocol where we are looking at the performance of all students to make sure that they are meeting adequate progress. If they are not, we then look at secondary and tertiary measures of data to see, okay, was the MAP score a one-off, but they're performing well in class and other, their NJSLA scores are okay, the teacher doesn't have any concerns? Or are there multiple indicators that a student is in need of either tier 2 or tier 3 intervention? So we have that pathway that our MTSS teams look at through the universal screener data. Our MTSS teams will also look at what we call a request for assistance from classroom teachers, in some cases school counselors. I'm on slide 5, just in case if you're following along. And this is where a student may not have been flagged by our universal screener, but a teacher has concerns. They will complete a request for assistance. They will track student data for a period of anywhere between 2, 4, 6 weeks. And they will go back to that MTSS team who will make recommendations for supporting that student as well. So we really kind of have that top-down piece with the universal screener, and then we have that, that bottom-up piece for any students who, again, weren't maybe flagged by that academic screener, but the teacher may have some concerns. Within a multi-tiered system of support, we will refer to 3 tiers. Tier 1 is everyone. That is all of our students, everyone. We are leveraging evidence-based instructional strategies. We have a high level of differentiated instruction. And our MTSS teams have really done a great job of distinguishing a child who's struggling a little bit with grade level content and a student who is in need of intervention. They have fallen significantly below that grade level. And that is our tier one. Tier one is everyone. Tier two is that targeted support. So a student who is flagged by that universal screener, we are looking at providing additional support, an increase in intensity, maybe 2 to 3 times a week at tier two. That could be in math, it could be in literacy, and very targeted instruction. It might happen in a push-in or a pull-out setting. Tier two, the research suggests that anywhere between 5 and 15% of students may need tier two support. So when we look at school-based data or we look at our district data, we want to make sure that the students identified for tier two are falling both within that threshold, ideally far below that. And then we have tier three, which is much more intensive intervention. An interventionist may work with students 4 to 5 times a week, pulling out in very small group or one-on-one settings. Supplemental programs may be leveraged in tier three. And this is a very small group of students. This is 1 to 5% of students. And in all tiers of instruction, we are looking for growth. But particularly at tier two and tier three, we want to monitor that intervention is meeting the needs of that student and we are seeing growth. And we do that through a very robust progress monitoring system through Linkit. Linkit is a data management system that Ms. McLeod and I, and I think Ms. Dross, Ms. Gasco, we could not live without at this point. Because so much of our data is in there and we are able to leverage the data in so many ways.
It's still title funded, right? The Linkit?
Yes.
Still title funded, yeah.
So Linkit is not only where we house our universal screener data, it is also where our interventionists are going to identify the specific goals for our students receiving intervention. They are completing intervention plans. They're leveraging Linkit during MTSS meetings to look at student historical data and things of that nature. So we have, again, Linkit houses our macro data all the way down to our individual student data through that student hub. And I am going to kick it to Ms. McLeod because I talked way too much. But I'm going to let her do some of the bragging and the success stories that we have experienced as a result of our MTSS.
You took the hard work of explaining everything and then you're giving her the brag.
Either one of us could do this blindfolded at this point.
Yeah, this has been a journey. And when this initially came in, we divided and we conquered. And while we all worked together, Ms. Roldan and I tackled elementary because we really wanted to make sure everyone, all of our student population was covered. And Dr. Roselle and Ms. Gasco and Ms. Trust and everyone else. I mean, we've really worked together to build such a nice platform here. So I just want to clarify before we brag about everybody, this is happening in a gen ed setting prior to any student being classified, because we want to intervene before potentially a student needs services. And we always had an RTI process in place. It was called RTI. Now we have MTSS, because now we've brought in behavior, which you've heard from athletes to everything else, where this has become a really important piece to address, as well as academics, because they go hand in hand. So everyone is now a part of this process. And Lincoln, I will tell you, while at first we were all intimidated, this has actually been, it's an integral part. And now our entire staff, for the first time, and I've been here a very long time, we're really speaking to data, where I will have teachers emailing me saying, hey, my math scores are in. Can we review them? Can we go over them? I have tier ones that are high flying now, and I need to know how to address them. And I have struggling learners, we need to know how to address them. And the teachers have become more proficient due to the utilization of this tool, which is really embedded in all of this, as a process. And again, our tier one is everyone, and our classroom teachers have stepped up. The programs and curriculums that have been put in place now provide all of the teachers with the resources they need to address our tier one students, along with our special education students, our ELL students, and any other type of learner that we have. Our gifted learners, we have a very unique situation that we are addressing this year, and we're excited to share that with you as well, outside of this presentation. But they're being addressed also in this process. Again, tier two is pull out, push in. And again, we just trained our interventionists. They're reading data now at a rate that we've never seen before. And so all of the tools that we paid for and that we brought in, math fluency, our interventionists can pull that data and read it in a way that they know immediately what supports the student needs, whether they need to be a push-in service, a pull-out service, and our guidance counselors right behind them are being trained also to address the behavioral issues that are arising, and that is also housed in Linkit. And then we move to tier three, like you said, our data shows that all of these tiers, the numbers that we started with, are now coming down because we strengthened tier one in the process. And now that tier one is strong, we see less students moving to tier two and to tier three, which results in hopefully less classifications of students in the long run. But again, link it, and I don't know that this would mean anything to you in some of the verbiage here, but our interventionists are using it to house the plans for all of our students who need an intervention. Our tier one teachers are even using it. So you'll see here, tier one checklist. We started off with over, I think, 200 tier one checklists because everyone was like, oh, I need to track that everything that this student is doing and they're possibly struggling. We ended up knowing that they weren't struggling, that it was a tier one issue where a teacher would swoop in and intervene. If they didn't succeed though with that intervention, then it moves to what you'll see here in RFA. And we noticed that from, let's say I believe it was 200 plus tier one checklists, only 60 were moved through as an RFA, which is unbelievable because the teachers are now realizing that they work the magic.
Would you repeat that? What did you?
It was 200 plus initially, and that was
RFA.
year one, tier one checklist,
Okay.
where they start tracking and
Okay.
they chart behaviors and what they're doing in the classroom.
Okay.
Thinking the student needed intervention, the teacher swooped in, provided that intervention, and realized they didn't need to go any further. So only 60 of those, and this is district, only 60 moved to RFA, which then flags the team, and the team will swoop in and discuss that student. So we've really had success with this. Data Locker is another amazing tool that we're using from kindergarten all the way up to grade 5. Middle and high school are not yet there. Okay, well, they have a grade book, that is why. K to 5, all of our assessment data in math and ELA are being housed in here. So when we move to an MTSS meeting, we open it up, the assessments are there. We can see what the child's doing or not doing, and we can decide based off of historic data, which is housed there, what's really going on with this student. So it's really a tool that's very, very valuable in this process. And really, I can't explain how much work we've put into this over the course of 3 to 4 years, all of us. We've called each other upset at some points, and then once we see the successes, we all celebrate. But it is really, it's become a great process and tool.
And it's so integral. I can't overstate how integral MTSS is into all decision-making that we do as well. So from looking at specific units of study, looking at the professional learning that our staff may need. The professional learning that's been brought in for math was a direct result of our MTSS program. The same thing in literacy. The work that we're doing is all targeted and is all emanating from this process. We continue to make tweaks. We look at our data, we look at our protocols, we look at any updates from the state. It is always going to continue to evolve and to continue to grow, but it's underpinning everything that we're doing, and we're really seeing the success from it.
I don't have any questions, but I do have comments. I'm gonna start by saying, I think it was Dr. Lehman who first explained it to us about a year and a half ago. I'd not heard of MTSS before that. And I started to see the number difference we were making just in our financials, like to your point, less people getting classified, we're probably able to preemptively identify and address solutions so that we don't have to send some of our children out of the district because we caught on earlier. Those were the advantages that I had been seeing in the last year through various conversations. But what stands out to me here is data culture. You know me, and it's one thing to do something on a whim, or I think, or I feel, and the other to have the flag staring at you through all of these data lockers and link it, and to have the entire team on it, and not just two people who are watching the data is, honestly, I'm gonna be walking out of cloud nine today saying that we have the best team here that can, if we've gotten data culture into this team, the supervisory team, it's a game changer. So
That's actually the feedback we got. I feel, when we had RTI was what we did, right? We would go in and say, I think the student needs some help, right? And we were used to doing that. And at first, that very first year, it was like, we're gonna look at all of this. And now it's second nature. They come out, they've got all this data in front of them. And really, it's housed in here now. We have no more spreadsheets. And there's no more, I feel.
it shows.
Joey performed this way on the assessments and look at all of the historic data. And now we know exactly where to place the student and we target, right?
And way
Exactly
before
what they
you would have known otherwise, right?
Right,
Because
right.
just linking it all, like the tool says, linking it all together in one place.
But the beauty is everyone has really stepped up and we've strengthened our interventionists or even our classroom teachers at this point, for the most part. When we go in, they know what the issue is, they target, they use the tools we provide, and they collect the data. So the students are really, really progressing and thriving.
All grade levels, or are we focusing on the elementary initiatives?
I'm very K-5, but middle and high school, it just looks a little different because of the structure of the school.
So
but
grades
K-5
6 through 8 look nearly identical to K-5. So there will be MTSF meetings actually this week. At the middle school, they're grade level teams, because that's how we do it at the middle school. And again, identical process. At the high school, we're a little different because we are credit bearing and we have to be cognizant of, a pull-out intervention can impact earning credit for a student who may already be at risk. So push-in sections in grade 9, really trying to focus on grade 9, and then grades 10 and 11 and 12 look a little bit different. But we absolutely have a process, K through 12.
Carmen, you had a question?
Yeah, how are the parents incorporated into this process? How are they notified? Are they part of the meetings?
Yeah, they're actually that was moving to MCSS, that was a requirement, actually. And before we had RTI and INRS, and the parent would be really brought in at the tail end of the process, where now as soon as a student is placed on tier 2, because tier 1 is everyone. If they're placed on tier 2, the parent is brought in immediately and they're kept in the loop all the way through. Anytime the student moves a tier, anytime goals are shifted, they get progress reports repeatedly throughout the process. So at the end, let's just say the student's successful, great. But if they're not and they've moved through tier 3 and they have to move to CSD, it's not a shock to anyone. They've been part of that process throughout.
Thank you.
Any questions?
And I think the process that we have now too, it gives the parents data as to why we think that they either need the intervention or they don't, because it actually works both ways. Sometimes you have parents who say, no, I don't want them out there. But we've said, no, they become independent, they can do this on their own, we're still gonna watch them. So the data works both ways because it showed multiple sets of data as to why they've done better or how they've gone through. And it doesn't mean we're not gonna watch them, it just might mean that they're not gonna be targeted in terms of having the very intense data set that we're gonna have with a teacher. But if you're going at it from tier 3 and you're moving up, you're going to tier 2, you're still under the watch. You know, and so you're still gonna get support, it's just gonna be a little bit, less intensive and more independent work in terms of the student.
And that was the
Not forgetting
shift,
anybody.
right? We had to really let the parents know and the teachers that tier 1 is a tier.
Yes.
We're not just putting them back in the classroom and saying, go be free. That's a tier. We're intervening in the classroom. They work that magic. It's just if they need more than that, that's when we look to pull out.
Adjusting our elementary schedules, again, talking about a data culture and the decisions that we make based on data, adjusting the elementary schedule to include everything in elementary has a cute acronym. Is a win period of what I need.
Oh,
And
wow.
Ms. McLeod has been
Love that
integral in rolling that out, assisting the principals and the assistant principals, meeting with groups of teachers, so that everybody, what I need, not what a small group of struggling learners need or a group of advanced learners, but what does everyone need to move along that continuum. So again, that emanated from.
So we revised the schedule to make sure that every school in elementary, K to 5 has a win period. Well, K is a half day. So, but, this is where we're building in other pieces as well with cluster, especially our gifted students. Mr. Maralda will probably speak more to that at another time. But it allows our interventionists a specific block to be able to pull the student out without disrupting the day. And then it allows the general education teacher or the special education teacher time to say, okay, you need this. You need this. And I've been to a few faculty meetings, so I can explain it to teachers. I have a whole slide deck on it. But I'm like, but Joey might have an SEL issue that day, and Joey needs SEL. So it's what they need in that moment based on data. What did you collect to show you that, you know, that student needs what they need in that period? So we revised, and that really has helped us across the board in multiple ways.
No data fatigue, yes.
And when we've had the meetings.
No, it's actually working in reverse, which we've never, not that we've never seen it before, but it's just more than we've ever seen before, where they're coming to us and saying, can you read this with me? Look at my kids. They're in the green quadrant. And I'm like, let's develop some activities for them. Let's really start to challenge those students or intervene. So it's better than ever.
The one thing I like, so elementary, the teacher, a lot of them will have the student all day long, so they see them throughout the day and everything. When it goes 6th grade and above, when we brought the team together, we've had a day, it's usually once a marking period or going through, but it's the language arts and the math there together, and the VP and the guidance counselor, and so all the conversations that were going on, it may turn into there's possibly some other situations that are going on, or some behavior, some attendance. So while the data is the core of what we're looking at, we also then start to look at the child as a whole. And even with the high school level, having that, we just had the math and the language arts there, along with the assistant principal and the guidance counselor, and the conversations were what's going on or what's not going on or what's improving, and it really makes them be a unit together. And so that's hard to do at the grade 6 and above because they are used to their own subject and what they're doing, but it's really, really allowed for some intense conversations.
So good to hear. Go ahead.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I want to pull you all who are involved in this, the A+ team, not the A team. Because just listening to what you are doing for the students of this district, I wish all 5 of my grandchildren lived here, so they could go through the process of what you are teaching to the students. They're in good school districts, but just listening, I can't take my eyes off it or my ears away from listening to what you ladies and gentlemen have all accomplished for the students here. And I just give you 120% credit for everything that you've done for the children in this district.
So just to bring it back up, go.
I just have, well, you know, as I was listening to this multi-tier system of support, I was, and I was waiting, and as you were explaining the program, you started to answer all my questions. I started thinking about your study team, thinking, how do you tie walls? And all of a sudden, the answers are starting to come.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, this is unbelievable. I mean, you've taken an umbrella and you put together a program where everything is under this umbrella. And the communication piece is there, everything is there. The only question I have, I do have a question. With kids who are classified, who is the interventionist? How do you work with these kids? Because quite often, these kids, it's in-class model, or is it, you have an in-class model?
We have a few models.
Okay, one thing in-class.
So I just want to clarify one thing. Once a student, so the idea of MTSS is to identify if a child actually has a learning disability, or if we can intervene and close that gap. And there are situations where we go through the tiers, a child is not making growth. We've pivoted and tried a different intervention, they're not making growth. That's where it is referred to the child study team. If that child is found eligible for special education services, that is where the IEP team, the child study team, will make a determination about the environment that they're going to have, what that child's goals are going to be, and things like that as well.
Answer my question, thank you.
I was gonna say, do you want to pick?
Yeah,
I would like to say a few things, okay? Because how kind of this starts is a 3-year process, and I will tell you, the state was looking at everyone with the MTSS process. And we did have to bring together a report, and the 3rd year, they didn't even look at us at that point. They said how fabulous everything was. We just gave the last numbers, and I will say it made a tremendous difference in the numbers in our students with the interventions that are placed at this level for how many students are classified. So we have seen that in our numbers within even our classrooms that we have throughout the districts. This year, we truly have seen that our numbers in special ed are a lot less. And I honestly, no doubt, believe it's because of all the process. And you've heard this through a 3-year process. Now, when we look at students that do go through tier 3 and they get to that last meeting and they need to be evaluated, let's say, and if the decision is made for classification, that time is when the IEP takes over and looks at the goals and objectives. We always teach the curriculum, they have to be exposed to that, but the areas of weakness are then looked at through the IEP. And at that point, the decision on the classification, what classroom they may be in, we have a continuum here within the district. We have ICS, we have ICR, we have resource, we have self-contained classrooms that we have throughout the district. But at that process, we have gathered numbers for the last 3 years, and the numbers have dropped tremendously this year. And it's all the work that has been happening for the last 3 years. So that's why we went back to the 3 years. And we were not even asked to do the last year. We gave the last numbers just recently to the state, and they agreed with all that we've done. We didn't even see anyone. So it was really, everyone was kind of taken a look at throughout New Jersey, not only, Monroe. And I think, they did a great job. They really did a fabulous job.
Because, my concern was based on the classification.
Yeah, and that's when
People.
the intervention was done prior, right? And then if you still need areas of weakness to be worked on, that's when that IEP comes into play.
I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I can wrap.
I wanted to ask you if you could, in your conclusion, explain, are all school districts required to go through the MTSS? And is there like a measure, an award for doing exceptionally well? Can you nominate which guys? Is there anything like that?
Sign up, but everybody here.
We did think about, quite a few times, we were asked to present quite a few times. And
I'm not surprised.
so because this was a process, Air was here even with us asking us to participate in a few things. It is a really great process, something that I'm super proud to be a part of.
Yeah, when we go to county meetings,
Yeah.
You're
I
the
feel
heroes out there
really-
for
I
MTSS.
feel really proud, like, when we hear what other districts have. I'm
Have we
sure
been asked to go down to present at school boards convention?
We were, asked at Texpo, because that was the only one that I did present, not present, but attend.
This would be fabulous
What
down
about
there.
your video? So we are the only
I-
district that
That's
has
up
a
to you guys,
program.
if you want to share that. We do have, yeah, you can.
But there is certainly a continuum of implementation across the state.
Okay.
So MTSS, New Jersey tiered system of supports is a required piece for us to have in place. Formerly known as, also still embedded in some of the regulations are the terms response intervention and intervention referral services, so RTI and INRS. Again, all of them mushed together is MTSS for us. It accomplishes the goals, meets the regulations, and most importantly, serves the needs of the students in the school district. Kudos to the growth we've seen in the instructional staff, massive change in culture in terms of looking at information through the data lens. And again, it takes a significant amount of effort.
Yes.
So, you know, I always compliment the administrative team on the work they're doing on the back end, the building principals, building administration, including the vice principals, all of our supervisors, in maintaining the message, right? And revisiting it, embedding it in conversations. And the culture of changing culture takes time. And we are still in that change. We are in areas of growth to work on. We will be tweaking our process forever. One thing I wanted to kind of ground us in is the entire conversation we just spoke about is growth over time. That's our lens from a district, growth over time, measurable achievement against themselves and their performance relative to themselves. We have the ability to kind of flash against national norms and national standards and state standards and relative to the student within the school. But we are looking for growth relative to themselves. And growth we know is we look for a trend of an increase in performance or whatever we're looking at. But we know it's not linear, right? You have ups and downs as we go through. We also share achievement data, which is a snapshot of performance at a moment in time, right? So that is something, again, it's a moment and a data set that we look at. But again, our focus is growth over time. Achievement data, like I said, is a snapshot. It's measured against a benchmark that's set across the board. We look at learning as a continuum, growth as a continuum, student performance, and the number changing over time, so growing and going up, maybe going down a little bit. So we will look at data throughout the year, including next week, when we see achievement data, right? So our students are growing. Sometimes they're passing over the benchmarks that we are reporting out on. Sometimes they're moving within the benchmark, you know, within the windows and stuff that we're reporting on. So just grounding ourselves in our daily work is looking at growth over time, looking at performance, adjusting instruction, meeting students' individualized needs, groups of students and small group needs. But we also do take a look at larger data to see, are there trends in what we're instructing that maybe, hey, we need to spend more time in this area or this content, or we need to move this unit to a different sequence or time in the school year because it gets more time, right? It's more appropriate to be taught here because of the sequence of the information they need to learn. So those are the things that we use some of the bigger achievement data information to look at, as opposed to drilling down and saying the one score that the students got in March defines them for the next 12 months, right? So I just want to put things in context. We look at things across the year, day to day, month to month, week to week, but we also consider the more, I guess, one-off assessments as well. So
I get that you're grounding us and preparing us for next week's presentation, but I don't want this high to go away at the end.
and there's nothing to be prepared for. I mean, not saying I didn't mean to do that, but.
Because you're right, people focus on, and that year, that month, and as a district, as our job in governance, our, the GOT, the growth over time is,
Yep.
it should be the focus, and he just reminded me of something that you mentioned, but I don't think you elaborated on it. You said the cluster, the gifted and talented program had a different success story out of the MTSS. Would you touch on it?
Am I okay?
Okay. Oh, is it for
No,
another
no,
meeting?
it's not, it's just, we're in the process of that, I'll make it very quick, it's just basically, we're so used to addressing the students that have needs. And we're very used to our higher average being the ones that we could say, here's a project, go do, and then show me what you've got at the end. And sometimes because they're way up here, their growth might be a little flat, right? When you have someone who's struggling, their growth is usually quite large because we can build on that. So we decided we wanted to take that a little further, and we wanted to see that same amount of, not the same amount, but growth in those high achieving students. So we had figured out a way to use our interventionists, same capacity, right? They're interventionists, but now they're gonna intervene with cluster as well. And they're gonna challenge them in a way that we're hoping after this year, not that we weren't seeing growth before, but we'd like to see more. And this is outside of our advanced math. This is outside of those types of programs because we do have cluster services happening within the room. Now we're gonna have an occasional once a week potentially pull out where she can further advance those students and work with them a little bit.
It's really cool.
But it's all based on any data that comes to us from, and again, Dr. Rosella, like, LinkedIn has become our best friend. Like, we can see trends in a way that we know, all right, this is unique to that school. This is a district issue. And we can, in real time, start addressing those issues. So it really has, and again, everyone uses it in different ways. Math has a way to use it. Oh, Danielle's got an entire way to use LinkedIn that is lovely, that I can't wait to
You would
start
definitely
exploring.
feel ready for when the Title I funding goes away and we need to find money in the budget for this indispensable tool. Remember
Absolutely.
to bring out all of these
Mhm.
points, and you could just play the recording to this meeting and
Hopefully. Yes.
the board then will say, all right, we really need it.
Yeah, we took a very intensive 2-day training on this summer, and without, I mean, it's unbelievable, the capabilities of this.
We are
I know, we're
almost,
very
can,
close.
can we postpone the curriculum documents? We have to do it tonight. You guys have 3 minutes. I
Sorry
did have
about
to
that.
quickly speak to the board goals, but I need the curriculum documents to be done for sure. If it's,
Absolutely.
I'll go.
yeah, 3 minutes.
Last month or the month before, I presented honors biology. This is, just referred to as biology. The reason it's our 2025 is that was the year it was selected. This was to update, to the science standards, make sure the document was updated regularly. This course provides a very comprehensive, overview of life science to our 9th graders. Biology is a graduation requirement, so all 9th graders do take some form of biology. You can see the document has a lot of great embedded resources, a lot of labs, and a lot of opportunities for students to demonstrate their knowledge, not just through traditional testing methods.
And 2023 standards? Are we a 20?
Only math and language arts is one.
Yes, so we're up for,
22?
I have,
Oh, even
the
further?
state's probably working on them right now.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we're current to the most current thing.
Anybody have questions? Okay. Well, Mrs. Gasko, you want to take?
So the good thing, it's grade 1. So grade one math covers adding and subtracting of the 20. So in all different ways, using strategies, models, they start 1 to 10, then they move up to 20. They do extend it where there's counting by ones and by tens. The ones only go up to 20 and then counting by tens going up to 120. So they do have different models that they're going through. So not to minimize what they're doing, but it's really getting the, as with the other standards that we've, the one we've done in terms of the new standards, keep in mind that there really is a focus on measurement, and data has now gone towards basically data literacy, and as a combined measurement domain going through it. where any types of problems that they're doing with the word problems, as they're counting up to 20 and doing the adding and subtracting, no multiplying and dividing there. It's about asking questions, collecting data, analyzing, interpreting, just getting the real life idea of it going through. Remember, as we did the other ones throughout the last couple of years, fluency, while it's there, has been replaced more with the words of accuracy and efficiency, because the actual time, the minute, is not so important. It is more, if you can do something in 65 seconds as opposed to 60 seconds, that's fine. We've got the tier 1, tier 2 vocabulary. Again, the other thing is climate change has been added into those type of word problems going through. The one big change in grade 1, while we still had it, and it was there, believe it or not, they took money out at one point in time, and it has now been put back in. And they are actually considered new standards from 2016. Do I feel that our teachers did it in the past? They did, because you can always go over and above what was there, but it is now there. And so the two new standards that are in there, one is knowing the comparative values of coins and dollar bills, and which is greater, like for instance, of a dime is greater than a nickel. We would think that this would be common sense, but students do not see money anymore. So this is actually a very important tool for them. And then using dollars and the solution problems up to 20, which is the application of the adding and subtracting of 20. So that's really the difference between the two.
Any questions on grade 1? Mr. Morales, can you do this in 60 seconds?
I can. So this course, Honors Finance, is a complement to the only other existing honors business course we have in the department. This is a full year course designed for students wishing to pursue business education and opportunity to satisfy their state required financial literacy requirement, but in a more rigorous and maybe a little more focused setting. The difference between this class and the personal finance class that we already exist is that this is full year and it touches on practices of business finance, wealth and capital management, and some of the more nuanced topics that someone studying finance might wish to pursue. Most importantly, like the other honors class that we offer in the business department, this course was designed specifically with the intent to win dual credit certification. It's one of the unique courses in the business program that's taught by an individual that is uniquely credentialed with a master's degree. And once this document is approved, we will begin shopping it around to colleges. We expect it to be received very positively, as this curriculum was written specifically in tandem with not only state standards, but what's being featured at Middlesex College, Rutgers, and some of the local institutions, how they structure their syllabus for intro-level finance. So that would be the next step with this course, and Dr. Sinansky and I will be working on that for implementation for this following school year in September.
So we've been teaching this, but this update this time is going to allow us to apply for dual.
Correct, but students currently enrolled in the 25-26 school year will not have access to that. Our goal would be for the college credits to be in place by 26-27, barring some miracle work that we can get done in the next few days.
I think we can get it done.
It's very unlikely that we would win that accreditation at this juncture of the school year, but nonetheless, we will try. We have to get this in place before Christmas.
And we have been teaching this for how many years now? 2?
This is our third. I believe it's our third year teaching it. Currently, have 4 sections running.
Yes, it was a great addition to our program of studies, and I've seen a lot of children really benefit from this.
And it's also about, for a little more focused approach in our traditional economics and finance class, which has improved their performance as well.
Any questions? All right, I would just take one last minute, because we were supposed to have a discussion on board goals coming from this committee, but we are completely out of time. The 2 goals that we had set for our committee last year, or as a board, that came from the curriculum committee, one was increasing AI proficiency in the district, and I feel like we made a lot of advance both from a professional development perspective, using tools for teaching our children. So I feel like we accomplished that. That's beautiful. The other, however, we haven't made significant progress. So my recommendation, it was for the portrait of a graduate. And I don't think we have made a dent on that at all. So I would definitely want it to continue and a lot more focus this year on that, if everybody agrees, because I remember saying that we got to teach to the portrait and not to the test. So for that, we need to finalize that portrait of our graduate. So maybe that would be one of the recommendations, but
We can
think
discuss
about
at
it,
the
right?
meeting. We'll
And
put all-
also, if there is another goal
Right.
that the board members or any of the supervisors,
Yes.
administrative staff would like to suggest, please, you have my email. send me a note about anything you feel should be a curriculum focus for the district in the coming year from our board lenses, and I would love to.
I can't see what it would be in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, good night.
Thank you.